Would some honourable member care to move that the House take note of miscellaneous business?
Mr Speaker, I so move.
The Right Honourable Chris Hipkins.
Mr Speaker, 2 years into the term of this government, it is now abundantly clear that all they have to offer New Zealanders is blame, excuses and anger. And haven't we seen that this week? How angry they have looked this week. An opportunity comes along every day for the government to tell New Zealanders how things are getting better, how they are improving the conditions in this country, and all this government could do this week was look angry and talk about the opposition. I can tell you from past experience, when the government spends its whole week talking about the opposition, it's a sure sign that things are in trouble on the other side of the House, Mr Speaker. New Zealanders are looking to this government for a sense that things will get better, that New Zealand can be a place where our kids want to stay, where they see a future and where opportunities abound, where if you work hard, if you play by the rules, if you take pride in your work, you'll see the rewards that flow from that hard work, that you'll have a sense of security, that you'll be able to make life better for yourself and for your families. You'll be able to access health care when you need it, and that you'll have a place that you can call home, where you can be secure and you can be part of a community. And most importantly of all, where you have hope for a better future. New Zealanders elected this government on the basis that they thought they had a plan for the future. It is now abundantly clear they don't have a plan now, and they never had one. Because we can see that under this government for 2 years, things have been going backwards. Our economy has been shrinking. Jobs have been disappearing, unemployment is increasing, the number of people lining up for a job seeker benefit continues to climb. The cost of living, far from being fixed, continues to go up. Homelessness is increasing, more people living rough on the streets. Kids living in poverty, that number's going up as well. The number of businesses going broke continues to climb. And New Zealanders are voting with their feet. Record numbers of New Zealanders are simply giving up and leaving the country. As a parent of young New Zealanders, this is something that I spend a lot of time thinking about. When I speak to other parents outside the school gate or at kids' birthday parties, one of the questions that is front of mind for all of them is when our kids reach the age when they're entering the workforce, are they going to stay? When they go off and do their OE, are they going to come back? Because we all know far too many examples of people who are leaving, young New Zealanders in particular, talented, bright, the future of our country, giving up and leaving with no intention of coming back. And instead of giving those young New Zealanders hope, we have a government that describes New Zealand as wet, whiny and miserable, that calls New Zealanders bottom feeders, and that says that our emerging businesses, those who are creating the jobs of the future, are C-listers and unworthy of government support. Right. It doesn't have to be this way. We can have a future that is made in New Zealand, by New Zealanders, for New Zealanders. We can back ourselves, Mr Speaker. We can invest in ourselves. While this government offers asset sales, we on this side of the House say we should be investing in assets. We should be investing in a better future for New Zealanders. While that government over there wants to sell off what's left, we want to leave a better legacy for the next generation of New Zealanders. While they wait for foreign billionaires to come and save us, we say we should be backing ourselves. We should be backing Kiwi businesses to create jobs, to keep talented New Zealanders in this country and to create the future that New Zealanders deserve. A future fund that uses our existing asset base to grow opportunities and grow jobs for New Zealand. A government that backs innovation here in New Zealand is what the Labour Party stands for, Mr Speaker. The game development rebate that's created jobs, that's seen the gaming development sector grow by nearly 80%. During the 2.5 years that rebate's been in place, they wanted it expanded. This government said no. We say yes on this side of the House because we want to back our innovators. We want to back those people who go to work every day to create jobs and create opportunity. Where that government says no, 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 when they offer cut, 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 we say yes, 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 and we will invest, invest, invest in the future of this country.
Speaker.
The Honourable Louise Upston.
2 years. 14th of October marked 2 years. What's the job of the opposition? To come up with
Hang on,
policies.
just take your seat. If you're leaving the House, leave quietly. The Honourable Louise Upston.
One job. They've got one job. Come up with some policies to actually back up their words. They've got lots of words, but nothing to back it up. And there was a bit of anticipation. So after the 2 year mark, what were New Zealanders waiting for? They were waiting for some policy. Waiting for some policy. What did we get? They were so patient, waiting for a policy, waiting for a plan, waiting for something for the opposition. What did we get? What did we get? Unfortunately, what we heard on Monday took us right back to the horror show of October 2023, where the New Zealanders voted out a government who was taxing more, spending more, and who was reckless with their tax. So what did they come up with? Well, actually, nobody seems to know what they were actually talking about. 11 pages, no detail. I think there was one figure. Oh, and there was a photo of Chris Hipkins. That's meant to fill in the blanks of the detail of this future fund, but they don't even understand how Temasek works. When you buy assets, you then sell assets for ones that have better returns. That's kind of basic economics, basic trading, basic investment. But unfortunately, New Zealanders would have been really disappointed by, well, actually probably not surprised really, in terms of the stupid, illiterate nonsense that we got served up. But don't take it from my words. It was described as a flop, vague, lacking in any meaningful costings, asset listings or clarity. And what we heard was the Leader of the Opposition saying one thing, the finance spokesperson saying something else. I mean, aren't they meant to be hand in glove? Aren't they meant to be in alignment? But we saw none of that again, which is an absolute disaster for the Labour Party, and it's by time that they actually recognised that when you're going to announce a policy, you should have the detail. You should have your two lead people who are spokespersons for it, who actually understand and are on the same page. But then what did we see? Less than 24 hours later, another major policy announcement that the leader didn't even know about. How was that look? How was that look of absolute shock and horror about a policy that had been announced earlier in the day that he didn't seem to know anything about? So when you think about what's happening over the other side, 2 years in, I think they're living their own horror show over there. Their financial and economic credibility continues to be in the grave. And unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, it's a pattern. We see policy rollouts that no one's been briefed on, half-baked economic proposals, and they live in a fantasy land. Mr. Speaker, New Zealanders deserve better than that. They deserve better than that. And that is why our side of the chamber is absolutely focused on delivering for them. So if you just think this week, roads of national significance. We've already got a program of roads that are being rolled out as we speak, and those that were announced by Chris Bishop this week show the next pipeline of significant roads of national significance that are game changers for our cities, for our regions and our communities. Yes, they create jobs, but yes, they provide really critical infrastructure. And actually on this side of the House, when we plan infrastructure, we've actually got a plan for how we're paying for that project, unlike the economically illiterate on the other side of the chamber. We heard earlier from the Minister of Justice about the progress we're making about violent crime reduction, aimed at ensuring that there are 20,000 fewer victims of crime. And on youth offending, we're also well on track with our targets. Just this week, we've introduced 2 more non-financial sanctions for those on welfare, and it's very much focused at job seekers who are not playing their part. We want to see a welfare system that is far more active and responsive, and where people are preparing and doing their bit. And it's great to see the number of people exiting the job seeker benefit for employment. If we look about inflation, inflation has stayed within the band of 1 to 3%, from a high of 7.3%, 8 OCR drops. That is incredibly significant. That comes from fiscal discipline. It comes from understanding economic levers. It comes from understanding that you have to reduce wasteful spending and focus on getting outcomes and results. Mr. Speaker, in terms of economic growth, we are seeing progress in tourism, in dairy, in red meat and in gaming. Mr. Speaker, our side of the House is delivering. We're not a horror show like the other side.
Mr. Speaker.
Before I call the member, there's quite a bit of ongoing commentary during that last speech. I have noticed voices like that over the question time and other days as well. I didn't see where it was coming from because there was a glass that was obscuring the head from which it was emitting. But in the lesser people in the House, it's now clear where it's coming from, and I suggest it should just stop. The Honourable Mark Patterson.
Mr. Speaker, well, it's finally happened. Labor have announced a policy, and I have to disagree somewhat with my national colleague because we do think it has some merit. We do believe in New Zealand ownership of our assets. Our main issue is it's one of our policies, one that the Right Honourable Winston Peters announced some 14 months ago at our 2024 convention. They're like a cheap tributes band. I see them more as Cliff Richard in the Shadows, and I see us as a bit more like the Rolling Stones, but it's so lacking in originality in terms of a policy platform. Of 2 years of policy seances, that's the best they could come up with. A pale, cheap rip-off of our $100 billion sovereign wealth fund announced some 14 months ago. But I will give it something, at least Chris Hipkins knew that this policy was being announced. Look, it is a tepid toe in the water. It is lacking the grunt of the New Zealand First original. It is not big, it is not transformational, and it is not nation building like the policies that we'll be taking to the election. New Zealand First has a track record. The fast track legislation that we proposed and brought in through this coalition agreement. We've been proponents of the fast track, proponents of the Regional Infrastructure Fund and its predecessor, the PGF. We've been champions through Shane Jones of mining, agriculture and energy, through the supercritical geothermal, big nation-building things, jobs, growth in our regions. And my favourite, Mr. Speaker, is the efforts we're putting in to reviving the New Zealand wool industry. Mr. Speaker, wool is coming back. We are witnessing the revival of this great fibre. We have a massive heritage in wool. And New Zealand has been literally built off the sheep's back. And the turnaround is on. Strong wool, I should have told the Prime Minister this, that he could have quoted it earlier. Strong wool, up 32% this year. Fine wool, up 34%. And mid-micron wool, up 41%. 9-year highs, and most of that in the last few weeks. A surge in demand for New Zealand wool and a strong tailwind and a return to natural fibres. It's biodegradable, it's flame retardant, it's moisture absorbent, it's anti-allergenic, it's carbon negative. There are no microplastics and it doesn't need treated with toxic PFAS forever chemicals. Todd McClay wants to eat it, it's that good. And it's a miracle fibre which synthetics can't compete. And this revival hasn't happened by accident. There has been strong leadership from the government and the sector is rallying. It is uniting. This famously disparate industry is coming together. We are consulting with farmers on a wool alliance. Some groups aligned with wool coming together for the promotion, advocacy, skills development and R&D, an industry good body for which we haven't seen for over a decade and a half. The government has put its money where its mouth is. New Zealand First and National and our coalition agreement to put wool back into government buildings, Yes, that drives demand, but it's shown an important market signal, and one that has been picked up not just domestically but internationally. If we're not prepared to use wool in our own buildings, how can we ask anyone else? We've invested in innovation, developing higher value end uses. It will not only be more carpets and insulation, it'll be air filtration, sanitary, medicinal products, breaking into component parts, pigments, particles, powders, bioagents for dyes and nutraceuticals. That's transformation. That's $100 a kilo opportunity. We're not only changing the game, we're moving onto a whole new playing field. We're shortening supply chains and strengthening links between global suppliers and our growers right here in rural New Zealand. And it gets even better. Investment is coming to onshore manufacturing, not just exporting the raw materials, adding value for New Zealand, in New Zealand, and creating jobs in our regions. Mr. Speaker, I'm determined that wool will be one of the great comeback stories of New Zealand agriculture, adding to its storied heritage, restoring pride for our growers and wool harvesters, and much needed profitability back for our hard-working hill country farmers. Our sector is determined to play our part and make our contribution to doubling New Zealand's exports. Karen.
The Honourable Barbara Emmons.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And that, Mr. Speaker, is how you do a general debate speech when you are in government. You talk about the policies that you are undertaking. You talk about the sectors you are backing. And you also talk about all the other ideas that you actually back as well, such as the Labour Party's Future Fund. And to the member's point, you could say that Labour copied you. However, the problem is I couldn't find any detail on your particular policy to be able to copy. But nevertheless, I absolutely applaud your support for the Labour Party Future Fund and look forward to working with you on improving the Future Fund for the benefit of all New Zealanders. Mr. Speaker, I just want to take a moment to acknowledge the passing of my father-in-law, Bill Harris Edmonds. Bill Harris Edmonds, my father-in-law, passed away in the last September recess. He was my father-in-law for 27 years. He was the grandfather of 25 mokopuna. And so I want to say, e manuela malanga papa, you're an amazing man and we love you for it. The important reason why I wanted to talk about Bill was because his story is a very Kiwi story. Their family owned a family farm in Kaikohe, in the regions. His parents joined a number of Māori who left the regions and came to the city, the urban migration, because there were jobs in the city post the World War II. So his parents came to Auckland City to take up jobs. Bill and his beautiful wife, Memory, established their family in South Auckland, and it was from those roots that their family was able to keep going back to their papakainga in Kaikohe to be able to support the farm up there, but also to be able to work here. It was a generational decision. It was a decision about what other decisions we need to make today as parents to enable our children to have better opportunities. And unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, that story is no longer possible. We can't have the regional shifts to the urban areas that we have. We can't have that anymore. Because what's happening now is there are no more opportunities, both in the cities and rurally. We look at all the different factories across our country that have had to close down quite recently, in Tokoroa and Ruapehu, all the different regional areas, and the migration to the urban areas is no longer possible. With high unemployment in the different city areas, they are going offshore. 200 people every day, a plane load every day, is now going offshore because they can no longer find the opportunities for them, for their children and for their families. And that's why a plane load a day, we should never ever take for granted how many people that is per day with record migration. And the problem for me, Mr. Speaker, is that this government has no plan for that, to stem that brain drain. The fact that we are losing almost the size of Napier City in the last year should be concerning every single one of those government backbenchers. Because Kiwis vote with their feet, and if they're not offshore, they'll be here. And if they can't see a future for their children, for their families, for their friends, bye-bye. And that's exactly what these Kiwis across the country are having to do right now. And it's because this government's plan of growth Well, it's not growing for them. The only thing that seems to be growing is growing unemployment, growing jobless. There's going to be growing migration, growing business liquidations. And every single time the public hears the word, we're going to grow the country, grow it for who? Kiwis are asking. Because right now, time and time again, people are saying we can't afford bread, we can't afford milk, we can't afford cheese, we can't afford mince. That's not the Kiwi society that our children should be growing up in and that future generations should be growing up in. So Labor has a plan for that. Labor has a plan. And in the same way that Minister Bishop kept referencing the super fund, it is the same way that those decisions that Sir Michael Cullen thought about the future generational costs, that is why Labor is proposing to set up a future fund. A future fund that backs Kiwis, that backs the investment. And Tim Costley from Kapiti asked, what's going in it? Read the plan. Just read it for yourselves. Maybe you should copy it. Maybe you should copy it so you actually have a plan other than house prices rising and growing record migration to Australia.
Give you some ideas.
Labor wants to back New Zealand, to make a New Zealand for ourselves, because we know we have the skills and talent. We know we have the ideas. What they lack is backing, and Labor is going to back Kiwi businesses to help grow our country and make sure our children stay on shore.
Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Tom McLean.
Mr. Speaker, the best speech today in this debate by far and away so far, with the exception probably of Louise Upston's and let's see perhaps mine, was Mark Patterson. Because not only did he say that actually the idea that the Labor leader remembered to talk about this week was that of New Zealand's first, he got them to say that there was no detail in the New Zealand first policy, which isn't true, which just goes to show that when Chris Hipkins stood up there to use someone else's homework, he didn't read to the end of the document, because if he would have, he would have been able to answer the very, very many questions that were asked of him. We've heard other speakers of the debate say that when you give a debate in this and you're in government, you should be talking about what you've been doing. Well, I've done a quick scan of the newspapers and their reaction to Chris Hipkins after 2 years coming up with something that isn't a policy. It isn't a plan, it's a soundbite with no detail at all that says to New Zealanders, if we chuck the word future in it, hopefully you'll think we have an idea for the future. But actually, Mr. Speaker, here's a list for you. On the economy, in the last 2 years, this government has reduced inflation, got it down from record levels to one now that businesses have confidence to invest. And finally, New Zealanders understand the harm that's done when a government borrows money, taxes money and spends it on things that are not productive. We've got interest rates down that is saving money for every single household in New Zealand that has a mortgage, and businesses that actually have debt run up because that Labor government kept us in lockdown far too long compared to most countries of the world, and businesses are failing. And we've stopped the wasteful spending. By comparison, the headline says Labor's Future Fund promises everything and nothing. Labor's Future Fund, a shaky policy debut. In education, we've improved student achievement already, Mr. Speaker, something that they should have been doing. 1 hour reading, writing and maths every single day for students in New Zealand, with record investment in school buildings that will help students learn, not just the soundbite. And what did we see from the media about Chris Hipkins' announcement of something in the future he called a fund? Drivel versus lazy, future fund or future flop. In trade and export, 2 trade deals done already, the EU deal in place much sooner than we were told was going to be the case, and we have seen a trade negotiation start with India when that government, Labor, said it was not a priority for them. $12 billion of extra exports, and what do we say here in the media? Hits the buzzwords, but rationale is hard to follow. And actually, this is one of my favourites. Chris Hipkins' policy, after 2 years, given 3 out of 10 by the business community. On law and order, Mr. Speaker, we've banned gangs wearing patches, and they've stopped doing it. Police have record of efforts upon the gangs. We have reduced ram raids from records high all over the country, where New Zealanders were just expecting when they got out of bed there would be another ram raid in their community, to now levels so low that we hardly hear about them. And we've got on top of violent crime. And let me see another one. Here's the best one. What exactly will Labour's Future Fund achieve? With the biggest question mark I've seen in a newspaper. And here's one from this morning. After 2 years of waiting for some policy, Chris Hipkins sitting there quietly saying the policies are coming, we've been doing our work. I think Labor knows how bad this policy idea is. Mr. Speaker, final one, because Mark Patterson was talking about our farmers. You know, farmers are the backbone of this country and of the economy. And anybody that doesn't know that really just has to understand that 80% of all our goods exports that go overseas come from the primary sector. When Mark Patterson and I sat down before the government was formed to talk about how to support farmers and wool, he said that he wanted to take the responsibility on, and we have started to see confidence in wool farmers, the use of wool going up and the price starting to go up because we back farmers. And Mr. Speaker, that's what you do in government. You don't come up with a slogan and put the word future in it. Mark Patterson and I didn't say we're going to have a future fund for farmers who grow wool. We said we're going to put our head down and work very, very hard. He's done that all over New Zealand, and he is delivering for those farmers. So one small word of advice to Mr. Hipkins, who doesn't take advice well. Read to the end of the policy if you're going to steal it from somebody else. SWOT on all the things, and when you get asked a question by the media, the first time you can't answer it, go and get the answers. Don't keep saying, I will tell you later, because later is far too late, Mr. Speaker.
Debbie Nauru-Wapaka.
Kia ora. I wanted to reflect on the birth of Te Pāti Māori, and recently having seen the Macca Bill and what it was to crossing the floor. And crossing the floor was as much about crossing a line that had been drawn against our people for generations, a line that marginalised Māori, that marginalised, kept the margins of power and te tiriti and the footnotes in the history of this place, and actually a line that was drawn when Labour forgot about Te Tiriti o Waitangi, Hapu and Iwi, who never surrendered their foreshore and seabed. And this isn't a dig at Labour, this is actually a differentiation of Te Pāti Māori and the genesis of who we are. And our starting point and centre point always been about Te Tiriti o Waitangi, and our kaupapa deeply entrenched in the belief of constitutional transformation. So our whole purpose, I guess, has been about making sure that we are here to make people uncomfortable, and we will never accept status quo, and we will bring issues to the front, and sometimes people prefer silence on some of those issues, whether it be about inequity and inequality, racism, treaty breaches and colonisation in practice. I mean, we won't whisper about the political environment that we are in today, and that has been shaped by right-wing influence, where billionaires, Atlas think tanks and media owned by those who fear Māori self-determination, those donors who fund the outrage machines that attack Māori politicians for daring to believe and promote an Aotearoa hau. In fact, I think without Te Pāti Māori, this Parliament would risk slipping back into a comfort where Te Tiriti is a decoration. And justice of Te Tiriti is delayed for generations. And I want to talk about an environment where every Māori voice that challenges the colonial construct today becomes a target. The same hands that profit from the inequality that is shaping the public opinion of Māori, whether that be through the news, whether it be through any other media, and the opinions that we see on Māori are extremely hypocritical. What we have heard, and I'm going to say this straight up for everyone to hear, that nothing that is going on in Te Pāti Māori is as rotten as some of the things that we have gone and seen in other parties. We have seen ex-presidents with paedophile convictions. We have seen the rolling of 4 party leaders in 6 months. We have seen MPs resigning for sexing, and another stood down for being investigated for past misconduct with fake online profiles. And dare I mention Jamie Lee Ross. The biggest hypocrisy that we see going on in Aotearoa is its inability to confront its own honesty. And then yesterday we saw the biggest land grab be heightened by another grab from this government that 20 years has taken us back 20 years. And in fact, what we want to do is acknowledge the fact that people in Aotearoa are leaving in droves. So I want to talk about our solutions, because one of the things we never hear from any party in this place is the fact and the size of the tax evasion that goes on in Aotearoa. And in fact, the sad part of it is that only 1% is actually welfare fraud. $80 million. We have $6 to $9.4 billion fraud that goes on in this country, and this country does nothing about it. Te Pāti Māori intends to, in fact, what we believe 2026 will be is the tightening of and the changing of the guard, thank goodness, and the reclaiming of a pen to reshape the laws that this country needs to have. We need to redistribute wealth once and for all. Well, and some of the things that we've seen come out of this, because people will be coming home and not leaving in droves like we see. The GDP will not be shrunk like we see this government doing. We need to tax the wealthy. We need to tax those who are making all the biggest noises with the mass house home ownership. We need to tax ghost houses. We need to tax and pursue tax invasion. We need to then be able to redistribute that money, and in our estimation, which will help make sure that we can look after all New Zealanders in this country. Because right now, the way that it's going, it is only a nation and a government that looks after the super elite. We want to be able to confront and make this a country where every New Zealander gets looked after and gets seen and gets heard, and we leave no one behind, which is what we see this government has been doing shamelessly. Where we sit there, we can have actually a country where we bring people into it and they like who we are. They actually like tangata whenua. That is who Te Pāti Māori is. That is what we would intend to do when we get that pen and we reshape it and we make sure that we never have the shame of the nation that has turned its back on its own rangatahi as 18 to 19-year-olds. Kia ora rā.
Dr Vanessa Winning.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Yesterday, the Leader of the Opposition was caught eyes wide, eyebrows raised, when asked about what his health spokesperson had unveiled in a New Zealand Doctor article, a new policy on GP fees and funding. It was a moment of genuine surprise, caught on camera, destined for memes, and yet the policy landed with a bit of a thud, a polite wait and see from most, but not from me. Oh no, not from me, Mr Speaker. My response is neither muted or polite, because what we saw wasn't bold or visionary. It was recycled, it was uninspired, it was lazy, and worst of all, it merely reflects what is actually happening already. If people thought that the future fund was bad, this is even worse. Maybe they're saving up their best stuff for next year for the election, but if that was an appetiser, then I'm not hungry for any more. This wasn't the first time that Labor has made promises about GP fees. In 2017, they pledged to reduce fees and review funding. But once in government, that promise vanished. What followed were working groups, consultations, and ultimately abandonment. Instead of fixing GP funding, they chose to upend the entire health system. And I remember those years vividly, Mr Speaker. I was working as a GP in the system. I saw the confusion, the disruption, the chaos. Reports written and then recommendations made and ignored. The result was a textbook example of how not to do change management. Mr Speaker, they couldn't organise a bun fight in a bakery. In 2022, the Minister Little quietly commissioned a Sapere report on health funding. It revealed what many of us already knew. General practice had been underfunded for decades. The report called for a significant uplift of up to 231% for very low-cost access practices. It also recommended reforming the capitation formula for funding to reflect age, ethnicity, morbidity and gender. Sound familiar? Yes, well, that's because the Moody report, commissioned by the previous National Government in 2015, had proposed exactly the same. Labor had the evidence, they had the recommendations, but they failed to act. Now, under National, we are delivering. A new capitation model will be in place by July 2026. We've implemented the largest increase to baseline funding since capitation began. We're not just talking, we're doing. I've sat on the PHO Services Agreement Amendment Protocol Forum, or PSAP. I've seen how GP fees are set, effectively by an independent economist. The annual statement of reasonable fees increase, or ASFRI process, is apolitical. It's often retrospective, it's not perfect, misses major cost shifts like nurse pay parity. But getting an annual recommendation from Sapere is basically what Dr. Verrill called for in her opinion piece. Exactly what is already happening now through the ASFRI at PSAP. What Labor is proposing isn't new, it's how the system already works, Mr. Speaker. And, well, they like it because you're saying that you might hold yourselves to it, which is never going to happen. What Labor proposes isn't new. It's just not anything interesting. And yet Dr. Verrill's article presents it as a fresh idea. Mr. Speaker, it's painful to read. It's like watching someone reinvent the wheel and only they've made it square. But obligating the government to fund externally recommended levels while capping fees is fiscally risky. Mr. Kipton's called the policy minor. That's only true if they don't commit to any of it, which they won't. Of course, Mr. Speaker, it's not just about money, it's about people. Our government is also increasing the funding for GP trainees so that they're on par with other specialist trainees and have their fees and exam costs funded for the duration of their training. We've increased the number of medical school places, and we're also very excited to be starting building work on a new medical school that will focus on rural and community health. This is badly needed. Mr. Speaker, this isn't just about policy, it's about trust, it's about competence. It's about valuing our GPs, the backbone of our health system. So I say to this House, and to every New Zealander listening, reject recycled ideas, reject superficial fixes, demand better. Let us be bold, let us be principled, let us be relentless in our pursuit of a health system that works for everyone. Because when we get primary care right, Mr. Speaker, we build the foundation for a healthier, stronger New Zealand. Together, let's deliver the change our communities deserve.
Thank you,
Laura McClure.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So today I want to talk about online harm and the digital landscape facing our young people. There are genuine concerns around online safety, rising issues around cyberbullying, online exploitation, AI chatbots, AI girlfriends, all of these types of technology that our young people are using, and they leave people feeling quite powerless at times. We know that they are causing harm out there. We know that our young people are having AI chatbot girlfriends, being told to potentially kill themselves. There is serious, serious harm. I hear from parents, principals and teachers all the time about their concerns. They struggle with their children in this fast-paced world that we're growing. And I think this is something that we are facing as a society, something that we should have seen coming, but we haven't. And now it is here, and it's faster than we could even imagine. There's a growing temptation in politics to do something about this. But often we focus on blanket bans. It feels like we've moved away from cancel culture and we're now heading towards ban culture. And that is a dangerous place to be. We need to do something about these issues, but we need sophisticated solutions. We can't just go out there and say, we're going to ban the internet. It's just not practical, and it's not the world we live in, and particularly not for our young people. We've seen countries like the UK and their Online Safety Act struggle to deal with the issues effectively and have become instead bureaucratic nightmares. There's concerns about data sovereignty and data breaches, and it's a real scary thing to consider. But also on the positive side, New Zealand can watch and we can learn and we can see what is happening in these countries in order to make none of the same mistakes and take all of the good things from that. My colleague, Dr. Parmjit Parmar, has successfully called for the Select Committee inquiry to define the actual problems and hear from the experts that work in this field. I was able to submit to this inquiry and talk about my experiences, what people have said to me and what they're telling me that they are hearing, that they are feeling about being a parent and being concerned. But what I want to say today as well is government's doing our part. We are looking into these issues and we're trying to come up with solutions. But parents, wake up. You guys need to get online yourselves or check at what your children are viewing online. You know, there is a lot of advocacy groups out there doing a lot of work. They're calling for regulation, and there may be a case for that. But parents need to take some responsibility. It is not that hard to find out what your kids are doing online. There are apps available right now. They're free apps that I heard someone say, free apps where you can monitor your child's online activity, and you can do things like screen time, for example. You can block websites, you can control the apps and things that they're on. Because I can tell you right now, the things that they are seeing online are extremely damaging and harmful. And if you haven't done it already, you need to do it. You need to take some responsibility there. Instead of trying to fix everything that we can about the internet, we could actually fix things and issues that we know are real right now and we know would be an easy win. And one of those would be deepfakes. It's been 4 months since I put my members' bill into the tin, and it could sit there forever. At the time, I shared the stories of those that have been traumatised by this form of digital harm, but what I didn't expect was the global exposure this would get and the flurries of further concerns that came through into my inbox. We're not talking about a bit of fun, a bit of a joke. We're talking about young individuals, nearly always female, that are finding themselves abused by this kind of behaviour. Taking your image and turning it into some kind of pornography is so damaging. One of the survivors of this has found herself unable to get a job, for example, because her potential employer Googled her and found pornography that wasn't even her. Dropping out of high school, dropping out of university. These are serious things. And I just want to, while I've got particularly Hannah in the house, say thank you so much for supporting this bill. I know that when I came to Parliament, I wanted to make a difference. And it really, really upsets me, and it kind of annoys me that senior leadership of the other parties could do something about this. We could actually debate this on the next Members' Day, and this doesn't have to be a political issue. But instead, we are making it a political issue. Thank you.
The Honourable Ginny Anderson.
Oh, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. New Zealand has amazing talent and some of the smartest ideas in the world. But the bit we don't have right now is the backing to take those ideas, to make sure they stay ours and for them to work for us smarter. We've got a problem in New Zealand, and I've seen it right since the early 2000s when I first started getting involved in politics or looking at the economy. Back then it was companies like Navman or 42 Tupelo Vodka. Since then we've seen companies like Trade Me, Tip Top, Pix Peanut Butter, PGG, Rights and Seeds, the list goes on and on, Mr. Speaker. These are all Kiwi ideas, Kiwi ingenuity, Kiwi businesses that grow to a certain size and get picked off and taken overshore. And when that happens, Mr. Speaker, not only do the jobs go, but the opportunities go. They go because it stops us from having stronger communities that benefit from that knowledge, that benefit from those opportunities. But I think probably the hardest thing is the fact that our kids don't see that they have opportunities here in New Zealand when those companies go offshore. What does that mean for New Zealanders each day when they're going to pay for their groceries or trying to make ends meet? What that means is that there aren't enough jobs in New Zealand right now, that people don't have the higher wages that we do in Australia and other companies, and we don't have the same opportunities to rise up within companies because our businesses just don't grow that big here in New Zealand. But it doesn't have to be that way. We can have a different future if we choose to, and we in Labour choose to build that future by having the first step in that direction, and that is the Future Fund. We know that if we own our future and we keep it here and we sustain those New Zealand companies to grow bigger and provide greater opportunities, not only does that grow our economy, but that makes our communities stronger, that gives our people more money in their pocket, and it makes our country better. We believe in that future. But what do we see from the alternative? What is the alternative model we've been offered so far? We've seen that we could sell things off. I think that's National's next plan, is to sell off our state assets. We believe in Labor. We'd like to keep them, put some in a future fund and make them work smarter for us and for our people, not sell them off. Or the other option we've heard is trickle down, so that those people at the top were going to be so loaded that the wealth is just going to eventually trickle down to those at the bottom. We've heard the Prime Minister himself say that this is a two-stage recovery. One stage is for him and his mates, and the rest is for the rest of the country who are still waiting for the trickle down to hit them, and it never does. And foreign investment is a third idea we've heard. Open up the floodgates, let them in. We've had a massive summit which has resulted in $1 million being spent. And the only offers is 2 of those have said that they might open an office in the future. That's it. Nothing in that at all. We have so much potential here in New Zealand, Mr. Speaker, so much potential. And I'd just like to point to the announcement today with the video game development announcement. That rebate introduced over 2 years ago kept jobs here. But not only did it keep jobs here, it grew them even more. And that industry has increased by 80% over the past 2 years. We know that that's smart jobs. For every dollar of taxpayers' money invested in that sector, the return was nearly $5. That's smart. It's not only more money in our economy, it's opportunities for our young people. They can look ahead and see a future here for themselves, a well-paying job in New Zealand, and that's the future that we want to look for. We know in New Zealand that we are smart. We know that we should back ourselves more, but we can't sit back and wait for that to happen, which is National's plan. We want to have the ability to back ourselves and to grow our future, because we know that we can build a future that serves us all, an economy that works for all of us, not just one stage for them and a second stage for the rest of us. And that's what Labor offers that is different, making sure we build an economy ground up that works for everybody. We are small, but we are strong and mighty, and we can be so much better if we stick together and back ourselves. We want a future here in New Zealand that our children can look ahead and see a future for themselves here. Right now, we don't have that. We have 200 people a day on a plane heading overseas. We know that if we build our future fund and if we continue to grow a New Zealand that works for everybody, then that gives the opportunity for our kids to be here. And Mr. Speaker, I believe that's a future worth fighting for.
Tim van der Molen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, spring has sprung. The grass is growing, the calves and lambs have been raised on farm, and the flowers are blooming, Mr. Speaker. In the mighty Waikato, of course, the heartland of rural New Zealand, we see that aplenty. It's always comforting to have that, Mr. Speaker, after the dreariness of winter. And the last government, Mr. Speaker, is an apt metaphor for winter. The dreariness, the dull, long, rainy days, people just want over it. That's right. And thankfully, this government, Mr. Speaker, is like spring. Right. And just as that new season growth and calves thriving on farms signals the arrival of spring, so does infrastructure, ambition and delivery signal the arrival of a national government, Mr. Speaker. It's fantastic to see this government delivering yet again a great announcement just this week on the roads of national significance. Ambition abounds, Mr. Speaker. Opportunity presents itself, and this government is absolutely driving that for the prosperity and the opportunity of New Zealanders around the country. Nowhere has that been seen more than in the mighty Waikato, where we are expecting to see 2/3 of all population growth over the next 30 years in our region. So it is absolutely fitting, Mr. Speaker, that we have seen $100 million committed towards the Southern Links project just this week to explore, design, site investigations and consenting to ensure that project can link up. Because unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, we are seeing already massive congestion in the Tamahere region. That is directly off the back of the Hamilton section of the Waikato Expressway growing, which is a great thing, sorry, with it opening. That's a great thing, of course, Mr. Speaker, but we saw a 50% increase in traffic on State Highway 21 and 1 at that Tamahere interchange off the back of that great piece of road opening, because everyone wants to use it. So, of course, now the next step is Southern Links to help join State Highway 3 through to State Highway 1 and to cut across the bottom of Hamilton City. So it's a fantastic opportunity to do that. And the member across the House talks about potholes. Well, thank goodness this government has come up with a plan and we are delivering those. Potholes on state highways across the country, 95% of them have been repaired within 48 hours. What a magnificent achievement. Far away from what we saw under the last government, where you were driving in trenches all over the show, Mr. Speaker. So thank goodness this announcement has come this week. It's a welcome delivery for the people of the Waikato and comes off the back of the previous announcement to extend the Waikato Expressway down to the intersection of State Highway 1 and 29 at Piarere, a natural terminal point for that next stage of the expressway. 23,000 vehicle movements a day along that piece of road. It just makes sense. We're going to see dirt being turned there within the next 12 months, and I am very excited about that, Mr. Speaker. Ultimately, we want to see 4 lanes all the way through to the mighty Bay of Plenty, through to Tauranga, ideally through a tunnel through the Kaimai Range. That, Mr. Speaker, would be a game changer for the region. It would unlock economic potential, it would improve safety, reduce emissions, improve that social connection. Massive benefits. These are the sorts of things that we are looking at, we want to drive to ensure that New Zealanders can get ahead. But wait, there's more. The third medical school, Mr. Speaker. Vanessa Wiener talked about that before. That has been put forward by this government, will be turning dirt before Christmas. It's well overdue, and we are extremely excited in the Waikato region to have that one shaping up for us as well. As I said, Mr. Speaker, the Golden Triangle, it's where the growth is happening. We are very ambitious. This government is ensuring that we get the infrastructure in place to enable us to ride the wave of that growth opportunity and not be left treading water in its wake. Now, Mr. Speaker, all of these fantastic things I've talked about, none of them would have happened under the last government. The last government cancelled the extension of the expressway down to Piarere. They cancelled Southern Links. They opposed the third medical school. They lacked ambition. They did not support growth in our regions, particularly the Waikato. So thank goodness, Mr. Speaker, we have a government that sees the opportunity in our regions, sees the opportunity, frankly, for all of New Zealand. But in the mighty Waikato, we are very excited about the potential that will be delivered under this government for those infrastructure projects. The last government couldn't do it, Mr. Speaker. And we've seen even now they still can't deliver. All we've heard is empty promises, some vague pieces of paper this week on potential policy. Infrastructure couldn't get up and running under the last government. Where was light rail? Nowhere to be seen. Fake bridges. New Zealand needs a national government, Mr. Speaker, to ensure that the renewal of spring turns into a glorious long summer. Thank you.
The Honourable Marama Davidson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm standing proudly in solidarity with our workers, including 100,000 plus workers who will be striking tomorrow across the country to send a clear message that they are not being valued by this government, directly impacted by the decisions of this government, Mr. Speaker. These are workers who are in our communities, in our hospitals, particularly in our healthcare services, caring for us, for our tamariki, for our communities. Healthcare is a human right, should be a core public good and public service, and these workers are essential workers, Mr. Speaker. The situation right now is that this government is not valuing them. Pay and conditions and safe working conditions, that's not really a lot to ask, one would think, especially for these services and these workers who are putting themselves out there for the love of people and community to want to care for people in their communities, Mr. Speaker. Instead, they are working in chronic understaffing and unsafe working conditions. This is having an impact on them as workers and an impact on patients and the people that they want to provide proper care for. This puts the system under incredible burden and stress. We end up seeing chronic and more complicated illnesses and diagnoses, including in our emergency wards, where they are incredibly under stress. Mr. Speaker, that is not the care that stress is not the care that they want to be able to deliver. They want to care properly. And that, unfortunately, is often leading to tragic and irreversible loss. Mr. Speaker, I want to remind us that, I think it was in 2023, a coroner ruled that the preventable death in 2023 of a woman at Waikato Hospital's emergency department occurred while the ED was 5 nurses short. Just today in question time, we put to the Prime Minister and to the Health Minister whether they agree and are taking on board the feedback from the very nurses and health workers themselves who are saying they are not in safe working conditions. The Prime Minister had the gall to completely dismiss what they are saying when the evidence is clear, sadly, very clear. The Health Minister had the gall to stand there and say, yes, you are nurses. I'm sorry, but we do not believe you. We will not listen to you telling us about trying to care for patients, including, for example, those who have soiled themselves. These were the stories that we put. Am I hearing mocking of the stories that we are hearing this side of the House, Mr. Speaker? The stories directly from the nurses at the front line that they want to deliver better care, but 90% of the shifts are understaffed. Those are political choices. While this government has chosen to fund wealthy landlords, has chosen to fund tobacco companies, has chosen to find all these billions for all of them, plus fossil fuel barons. These are the choices that this government has made. The strikes are a direct consequence of the choices.
Sam Uffindell.
Look, I understand that the member is quite energised about this, but it's not correct to say that we are funding wealthy tobacco companies and wealthy landlords. That is not a correct assertion.
Finding the tax breaks.
Wait on a moment.
Finding the tax breaks.
Sit down. I need to address the point of order that's made. This is a debate, a general debate, and people will say things in a general debate that others will not agree with. It is a matter of perception. There's always been a degree of latitude around the absurdity of saying that a tax cut is a loss of revenue. Is an expense against revenue. These are the sorts of things that do get debated in the House. So while I would suggest that the Speaker does speak as factually as possible, then that it's not going to be ruled out of order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The other side of the House are far more outraged about my choice of words than they are about the actual situation that is happening in our healthcare system right now, Mr. Speaker. So I put on the floor the real human stories and impacts from workers, from patients, about the underinvestment in a public health system that is a choice of this government when they manage to find tax breaks and other ways of supporting wealthy landlords, tax companies, fossil fuel barons. I hope that was okay, Mr. Speaker. Thank you very much. Those are political choices. The Greens instead would choose to properly invest in public health systems, ensuring that our GP visits are free, our nursing visits are free, that our dental care is free, that we provide vans in our rural areas and communities, diagnostic abilities, and also properly fund community and healthcare providers. Those are the choices that the Green Party would make. And I am pleased to see that the public are supporting the people and the workers striking, because they are not seeing through the gaslighting and the minimising of workers on the front line, who this government, Prime Minister and Minister, are saying, we don't believe that you are telling us the truth. When you tell us that patients are not getting care, we don't believe you.
Tim Gosling.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I was going to start with my quote of the week. I had quite a good one lined up, ready to go, but we've had a couple just in the last hour during this general debate. And maybe I can touch them as they go. I just have to make a special mention, though, of Chris Hipkins at the start, saying he didn't want to have any more blame and excuses. And I just wonder if someone could wind the clock back for him 24 hours to when he's being asked about, well, why is there no detail in your policy? Why did it not mention the right number? Oh, no, that was someone else's fault. Well, why didn't you know about the health policy you're announcing? Oh, that was someone else's fault. And I have to hand out the silver medal to Barbara Emmons, who actually had the temerity to stand here to look at Mark, to look at Mark Patterson and say, oh, well, we couldn't really copy the New Zealand First policy about the Future Fund because there wasn't enough detail in it. One, of course they were copying it, they just changed the cover page. But two, criticising the detail in it when what detail is in theirs. I think that what happened was they got their one, ripped off the cover page, stuck a Labour one on, fed it into AI and said, take out the detail and put in some jargon, and that's pretty much what came out the other side. But I think we've gone through bronze and silver. I think I'm going to keep my gold medal quote of the week to where I was going to start, Mr. Speaker. And that also goes to Mr. Chris Hipkins, who yesterday said that he couldn't, quote, hand on heart promise that Labour would build any roads. No kidding, he can't hand on heart promise that, because what happened last time they were in government, they all got cancelled. People in Levin still remember 2018 when the expressway that National were going to build from Otaki to the north of Levin got cancelled. Outright cancelled. Wow. They remember 2020 when Julianne Genter said, well, we'll let you bring it back if it's just 2 lanes, but we want 2 lanes that are just for public transport between Levin and Otaki, which sounds, well, it doesn't actually sound that good, but there is no public transport between Levin and Otaki. So I think hand on heart, he can't promise to deliver anything. Yep, I thought that was pretty good. And after 6 years in government and then 2 years in opposition, I thought they might be able to promise something. But all we got was the same old blame and excuses. And as I looked along the rest of the front bench and I saw Willa-Jean Prime that needs to check a few more of her emails, because she was asking the Minister of Education, the same one that she refused to collaborate with and then complained about not enough collaboration, why would the Minister of Education not go to the protest? It's been cancelled. Why was she going to the roadshow instead? Why wouldn't she meet with educators? That was her question this afternoon. Well, guess who's at the roadshow? It's our teachers. Yeah. It's our principals. It's educators. This is the person that Labour have got in charge of the education policy. Next in line, we just heard from Ginny Anderson, won't back the gang patch ban, even though she's acknowledged it actually works pretty well, won't back the law to stop protesting outside private residences, even though it kind of works and they don't think it's right. And I'm yet to hear her call out the Greens who want to defund the police.
Who's next, Jim?
Well, we may as well bring up the renowned Dunedin MP, Damien O'Connor, who's just openly opposing this great defence workforce bill that would back our service people in uniform. And I'd like to see that position turn around, stop siding with your union mates and actually come and support some people in uniform. Now, Mr Hipkins talked a lot about people leaving the country. He doesn't have to look too far. He could look to his left and see Megan Woods. He could look up behind him and look at Duncan Webb, all jumping ship because they can see what the future holds. The only thing that's clear to me is that they're going to need some friends in a couple of years. And I can see the Green Party licking the kombucha off their lips. They are excited. $88.8 billion of new taxes, tens of billions dollars more in debt. Their only plan to save money is to defund the police. But don't worry, everyone's going to get $395. We just heard it from Marama Davidson. Don't worry, everything's free. And the cry went out, who's going to pay for it? We don't need to pay for it, it'll be free. It'll be provided by that magical person. And then I guess they're also going to need Ngā Pāti Māori, I think that's what they are now, who have had the Great Reset. And then they came in and we had the first speech and it went a little bit too long. That's okay. It's like Monty Python with the Spanish Inquisition. We'll come in again. We've reset again. They come back in. They throw each other under the bus. I don't know who's driving it. Probably John Tamahere. No. What's that? We'll come in again. And then they're burning stuff outside Parliament. I think they've reset again. All we have is spend, and tax. Ngā Pāti Māori can't agree on one word to say 3 times. What we're all about is affordability, decent healthcare and education and safe communities.
Oh, well done.
The time for this debate has expired. Members, on the 21st of October, when the House was considering the redress system for abuse in care bill, The result of the vote on the first reading was incorrectly recorded as ayes 68, noes 53. The correct result is ayes 68, noes 55. I call on the Leader of the House, the Acting Leader of the House, the Honourable Nicole Mackay. My goodness, promotion comes so easily around here.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that the sitting of the House today be extended into tomorrow morning for the third reading of the Building Construction Small Standalone Dwellings Amendment Bill, the second reading of the Crimes Countering Foreign Interference Amendment Bill, the third reading of the Disputes Tribunal Amendment Bill, and the second reading of the Offshore Renewable Energy Bill.
The question is that the motion be agreed to. Those of that opinion will say aye. Aye. The contrary, no. The ayes have it. A party vote.